This question is from S. Miller, UK24. What effect does consistent resistance training have on type 1 diabetics?
Resistance training, besides diet, when you compare it to other forms of exercise,
it regulates insulin better, right?
Resistance training is the best form of exercise to positively impact type 1 and type 2 diabetes, because muscle is a very insulin-sensitive tissue. I mean, the main way your body stores glycogen, for example, is in the liver. The other way is in your muscle. And when you lift weights, you become far more sensitive to insulin, and you become better at utilizing carbohydrates. It's way better than cardio. In fact, now cardio does all exercise has a positive effect, but resistance training, because of the increase in muscle mass, has the best effect in my experience on both of these. So here's what happens with type 1 diabetics in my experience. And I'm not a doctor. This is just based off of my experience training clients who are type 1 diabetics and working with their doctors. Now, type 1 diabetics are people who don't make insulin. So they're the ones that have to inject insulin into the body when they eat, carbohydrates or whatever, and they have to monitor their blood sugar. Typically, they end up using less insulin is what ends up happening. Because their body becomes so much more sensitive to insulin, that less insulin is needed to produce the same result. Now, with type 2 diabetics, their blood sugar is just regulated amazingly with appropriate and proper resistance training. I don't know why resistance training is not the #1 recommended form of exercise for all people with issues with insulin or blood sugar. Well, it should be.
Explain. I'm going to tell you how I used to explain it, and I probably used to do it really bad, so you could probably help me out. But I used to try to explain it, and if you thought of your muscles as like these sponges, and the bigger the sponge, the more we're going to capture like carbohydrates, and any sort of spillage or over that we do out of the sponge could throw our insulin levels off and make us have to take insulin or whatever. So if I could build more muscle or more sponges in my body, it gives me more flexibility and less likely of over spillage into my body that would cause me to have to take my insulin.
Yeah, that's a fair way to, I would say, explain it. It's obviously going to be a lot more complicated than that,
right?
But that's a fair way. But no, studies show that more muscle mass is far better. It just improves insulin sensitivity quite a bit. Your insulin is, by the way, one of the #1 anabolic hormones in the body. A lot of people don't realize that. It's extremely anabolic in the body. So it's like it can be used to build muscle in the right context and all that stuff. But no, muscle is very insulin sensitive. Because the tissues of your body they are sensitive to specific hormones more so than others. Like, for example, fat is an estrogen sensitive tissue. So lots and lots and lots of fat on your body actually causes the body to utilize its estrogen a little differently, can even raise estrogen. So like if you look at like young girls who are overweight, they get their periods much earlier than girls who are normal weight. Men with lots and lots of body fat, you'll see higher estrogen levels. Well, when it comes to muscle, you build muscle and you do it the right way. You're healthy with a good diet, not taking anabolic steroids and all that other stuff. You're going to notice that you need less insulin. So if you're type 1, and here's something you want to pay attention to, because this is important now, and work with your doctor on this. Tell your doctor, hey, I'm going to start lifting weights. And the reason why this is important, because your right amount of insulin will likely change. And you need to know this, because too much insulin is not a good thing either. So whatever your normal amount is, as you're lifting weights, could very well become too much. So you want to pay attention to that and see, what's happening with your body.
So type 2, just to go over that one in terms of like the difference between type 1 and type 2. I know type 2, so you lose sensitivity to insulin.
Yeah, so your body's making insulin, but your body's not responding to it, and
right,
so
which all the more like reason to exercise.
Yeah, both cases, resistance training is a phenomenal benefit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.